Hello friends, and welcome to Gardening with Creekside. It is a very cold and chilly day here in North Carolina, Zone 8A. So what is the best way to spend a cold, dreary day? Well, let's just dream about spring and all the beautiful colors that are headed our way very soon. We are going to be talking about the new 2025 Proven Winter Annuals that are coming out this spring. It is fantastic. We were blessed to be able to grow these in our gardens and our containers last year, so we have lots of first-hand experience on these brand new introductions from our friends at Proven Winners. So not only am I going to introduce you to them, a lot of them, because y'all are so amazing, you already know these plants, but I'm also going to share with you some tips on how to use them in your gardens. So maybe you really want to try a new Supertunia, but you're just not quite sure how to use it. I'm going to give you some tips on it. Believe it or not, this week we have our first sweet little annuals arriving from Proven Winners. This first order, not quite so big. I think it's about like 3,500. Then next week we have over 20,000 coming. So pretty soon this greenhouse that you see is going to be absolutely filled from end to back to front, all over with those gorgeous annuals. So get your garden journal out or your notebook, get nice and snuggled under a blanket with a hot drink, and let's have fun talking about these new introductions. So of course, these are in no particular order, and of course I have my glasses. Before we get into it, let's talk about, we need to define what is an annual. An annual is a plant that is going to last for one growing season, okay? So it does not matter what zone you are. So I'm not going to talk about zones on this because, yes, it may look different on the calendar as far as like when you plant it. I can plant Supertunias in mid to late March, but I am in North Carolina, Zone 8A. Maybe you are in a much colder zone and you have to wait till the end of May. You still can grow annuals, but the time that you plant them may just be different. So remember, annuals are going to last for one growing season. Historically, all these that we're talking about, because they are those summer annuals, when you have your first hard freeze, typically it is going to kill the plant, right? There are some plants that are nice and cold hardy, and so there's always some exceptions, especially if you're Supertunias and your Superbells, because they love it cold. They might survive the winter depending on where you are. So it's important to talk about what is an annual before we get into the specifics of the plants. Up first, we have the Angel Face Angelonia. We have grown Angelonia for years from Proven Winners, and I love it. Two new colors this year that I'm so stinking excited about. We have the Angel Face Wedgwood Pink. I grew this in our backyard and absolutely adored it, y'all. The Wedgwood, there's a Wedgwood Blue that we've had for several years. Now we have Wedgwood Pink. This is where on the flower you're going to have both a pink and a white flower together. Gives it a beautiful, nice, soft look. Of course, your Angelonias are great to give you some height in the landscape. Not going to be crazy tall. They're going to be somewhere around that 18 to 24 inches tall, and they work great in containers as a thriller. You can absolutely put them directly in the landscape. So you have the Wedgwood Pink, and then you have white. You cannot go wrong with a classic white flower, right? Because white goes with everything. Whether you want to go with those pinks and purples and those really soft colors, or you want to go big and bold, white is going to go both ways. Again, you can use your Angel Face Wedgwood Pink or the white or any of those Angelonias in the landscape. Absolutely. You can plant them in mass. And when I say mass, I mean like 3 or more. It doesn't have to be 30. It doesn't have to be 300. 3 is a great number to pair those together. Makes a nice big impact. Of course, your containers, like I said, as a thriller, even in hanging baskets, gorgeous. Put that in the center. That is your thriller. And then you could put some fun spillers around it, and it would just be absolutely fantastic. Next up, we have an alocasia, my friends. So alocasias are like those elephant ears, right? Very upright, very big, very bold. This year we have Emerald Isle, and Emerald Isle is going to be a very large plant. This is going to be great for your landscape or a very large container. So just kind of keep that in mind. It is a fast grower, especially when your temperatures get nice and warm, because they love the heat, they love the humidity. It is going to be a nice tall but tight plant on it. Very upright, bright, solid green leaves. So you're not going to get any variegation on this plant. It is going to be a beautiful, kind of a glossy, dark green. And the great thing is this can do sun or shade. And so if you have that lovely tropical feel, maybe it's around a pool, maybe it's around a pond, right? Some sort of water feature where this plant can get lots of water if it's in the landscape, or if it's in a large container. It has lots of soil, because you're going to need lots of room, because this plant is a fast grower and it's going to get nice and big. So make sure that your emerald isle has lots of room for those roots to grow and lots of water to be absorbed in it. It's beautiful. It's going to give you lots of beautiful vertical interest in your garden. So then you can come, whether it's in a container or the landscape, you can come and underplant around it. So you've got this big, beautiful green arching leaves with all sorts of fun things underneath it. So be on the lookout for Emerald Isle alocasia. Next, we have a whole new kind of line of begonias, and these begonias are going to be more for your foliage interest. There's not going to be any flowers on them. These are called the space age begonias. They have really such cool colors on them. There are 3 in here. You have got space age Triton, and Triton is going to be more of kind of more of a green with that silver white overlay, that speckled look to it. Then we have space age Europa. Now this is so fun, because then we're starting to get into a little bit of color. We've got some burgundy, some deep purple around the edges of these really nice serrated leaves, going to form a nice mound to it. And then we have space age black hole. Now black hole is going to be a little bit different than Europa, because the center of the leaf is going to be nice and dark. Hence why it's called black hole. Still has that nice variegated edge to it with that deep purple, almost a maroon color to the plant around it. And these are going to be neat, really do well in your more filtered sun shaded areas. These are going to be great as a monoculture. Remember, we talked about that, where you can plant these just by themselves, maybe a couple of plants in that container to give you a nice interest to the garden. Or you could use it in a mixed container. So this is something that you could mix with more of those shade-loving annuals and perennials. You could pair a hosta with it. You could pair some of the Rockapulco double impatiens with it. You could do a nice sweet potato vine. Something that gives a nice color contrast to that container. It's going to be a really cool, neat plant in 3 different colors that you can choose from. Love these space age begonias. Proven Winners is definitely known for their Superbells and Supertunias, and they are not disappointing this year, giving us some of both. First, Superbells. Superbells are calibrachoas. A lot of times there's some confusion between what is a petunia and a calibrachoa. Essentially, visually, the difference between a Superbell and a Supertunia is that your Superbells are going to have a little bit smaller flower on them. They very much look like a miniature petunia flower. So that kind of gives you an idea. Typically, the plants are a little bit more compact. They don't have quite the vigor that your Supertunias do. And then next is where are you going to grow them? Superbells hate to have wet feet, right? So if you've got really well-draining soil, maybe like for the people that I know, down east, North Carolina, extremely sandy soil, then I almost guarantee you that your Superbells would do great in your landscape, because you have very well-draining soil. I, on the other hand, have very thick red clay. Superbells, not going to be happy because it holds the moisture. They are not going to like that. So I use Superbells in containers, whether that is a hay rack, just a pot, or a hanging basket. They do exceptionally well. They do love the sun, so I would say a minimum of 5 hours or more. Now, the 2 new introductions this year are doubles. Such a fun, beautiful flower. Almost think like a little kind of miniature rose, if you will. So first we have the Superbells Double Smitten Pink. This is going to be a lovely shade of pink. obviously. So you're going to have a more of a baby doll pink on the outside with a richer, deeper pink on the inside. And then you have the Superbells double vintage coral. Definitely does give you those vintage vibes. Has a nice kind of patinaed look, an aged look to this plant. The flowers are gorgeous in that kind of that yellowy, coral, peach look to it. But being a double is so fun. So I would use these as a monoculture, whether you could do a hanging basket or a container, however you want. But I think with your Superbells, when you plant them in numbers more than one, so again, that could be 2, that could be 3, we're trying to really bulk them up, especially if you're going to see this from a distance. If you're right up close to the container, then maybe you don't need to do that. Maybe 1 is good enough. But especially if you're from a distance, you want to add a couple more so that they really stand out. So I would do a monoculture with this. If you wanted to put a thriller in there, you absolutely could. So you could use one of those angelonias in there. You can use some other things that we're getting ready to talk about, those highlighted plants in that container for these Superbells. Would be a beautiful, absolutely gorgeous look. And of course, then mixed containers. If you want to mix it up and have your thriller, filler, spiller recipe, go for it. This would be a great spiller element in your container. So look for the smitten pink and the vintage coral. You're going to love them. They are absolutely gorgeous flowers. One of my favorite new introductions for 2025 is the Mini-Me Chartreuse. This is a coleus. So it's the Color Blaze Mini-Me Chartreuse. Such a fun plant, y'all. Not only is it a fun plant, but it is an easy plant that absolutely performs its head off all season. I have a very long growing season here in North Carolina. Like I said before, I can plant petunias and Superbells in March, and they will go all the way through mid-November. The Color Blaze Mini-Me Chartreuse is one of those plants. While it cannot maybe go out quite as early as your Supertunias and your Superbells, kind of wait till your last frost date, because coleuses typically don't like it super cold. So wait till your last frost date. That's me, April the 15th. But mine was stunning through November. I have pictures of it in the flower bed in front of the pergola. Gorgeous. Why do I love this plant? One, the color. Absolutely the most brightest chartreuse electric color to it, and it can do sun or shade, so it is extremely versatile, right? It does not matter if it is in the full sun like my ones at the pergola, all day sun and just stunning. No burn. We didn't have to pinch it back. It was glorious. I also had it at the entrance bed to the nursery. This is a really weird bed. Y'all been there with me before many times. It can be, some parts can be in full hot afternoon sun for maybe an hour or so, and then it's in the shade for the rest of the day. This is the perfect plant for those kinds of situations. Whether you have a little bit of morning sun or only a little bit of hot afternoon sun or filtered sun, it does not matter. This plant can handle all of those sun conditions, and it's so petite. I am a huge fan of the Color Blaze coleuses, but sometimes those coleuses can get way too big. We have had coleuses at the end of the season that are as tall, nearly as tall as I am. Hence the name Mini-Me, nice and petite. I would say about 18 inches at the end of the season. They really look like little miniature shrubs. Glorious. And because it is that Color Blaze, you don't have to pinch it. You don't have to deadhead it. The Color Blaze coleuses are great because they are so late to flower. We do our coleuses for the foliage. Yes, they will flower, but that's not why we grow them, right? So a lot of times, as soon as I see a little flower bud start to come, I'll pinch it back. I'll cut it off. With this Mini-Me Chartreuse, I don't think I had to do that one time because they are so late or never flower, which for a coleus is a very good thing. A whole new line, a whole new series coming out in 2025. So many of you already know this series. We were really impressed with this last year, so we talked about it a lot. Is the Totally Tempted Cuphea series. There are 4 colors in this, and they were so cool and so fun. we had a lot of fun with the totally tinted frosted violets. And by far, our customers were most interested in frosted violets over some of the others because it has a beautiful bicolor to it. So it's got a little bit of cream on the outside edges, and then that beautiful violet, nice rich purple on the inside. Has more of a thriller aspect to it, more of an upright habit to it, but not going to be crazy tall. Again, in that, like, I don't have the specs in front of me, but I want to say around that 18 inches, 12 to 18 inches type period. And of course, your cupheas love the full sun. They will attract your pollinators, all the fun things, but it's just a nice, different flower than, say, Vermillionaire that we're used to, that we absolutely love and adore. Still a cuphea, but these are very different. So you've got the frosted violets, then you've got vivid violet, which is this nice, solid, rich purple, and then we have two different kinds of reds. You have richly red, which really is a nice, rich, deep red, kind of a deeper throat to it, and we have watermelon wine. Watermelon wine is going to be brighter, right? So a little bit more electric. So if you want to go with those deeper tones, go with your richly red. If you are like loud and bold and you want to get some really pizzazz color, then that's where you're going to go with your watermelon wine. These did really well for us. I will say, so I had frosted violets planted in the deck boxes in the backyard, and you know me, mid-July, I go through and I trim everything, and that frosted violets was in there. So I had, super bean and pink cashmere, I had petunias, I had all sorts of things in there. I had the white angelonia, you name it, it was in there. It was glorious, but it was jam-packed. So when I cut it, the cuphea did not come back well. And I say that just because I want to caution you, maybe give her a little bit more room to grow than what I did. And when you trim it, you absolutely could trim it. Maybe not be so as aggressive as I am. So this is why we grow these plants, is because I want to be able to push them to the limits. So I can say, you absolutely can do this, or oops, you may not want to do that. So if you do want to prune it, if you have a very long growing season, be a little bit more kind and gentle to it than I was. Another series that y'all are so excited for are the new dahlias. This is the Virtuoso series, and there are some beautiful plants in this series. I think probably, as far as the Creekside folks go, the number one that was by far the most popular here at the nursery and on social media was the Virtuoso Pinkerific. Pinkerific, oh my gosh, y'all. Think dahlia. Think classic dahlia. That is Pinkerific. It is a nice petite. These plants are not going to be the dahlias maybe that you're used to with the tubers that you have to stake, and they're huge and they can be gangly and they can be a lot of work. These dahlias are going to be much more compact, much more tight, in that 18 to 24 inches size. So these work great in containers. They work great in the landscape. They would be beautiful any kind of mixed arrangement, whether it's a hay rack, a regular container, a hanging basket, you name it, it would be gorgeous. We did them both. They were in those deck boxes, and they were also in the landscape at the nursery. Now, I am North Carolina, Zone 8A, and I have the heat and the humidity. Personally, I found that the dahlias did best in the cooler temperatures, right? So early in the season, say up till maybe like the end of June, 1st of July, they're nice, beautiful, gorgeous blooms. Then July and August into early September, they kind of slowed down a little bit. Not that their foliage disappeared, but their flower production just kind of slowed down a little bit. But you want to talk about in the fall, Pinkerific put on the most gorgeous, beautiful display at the nursery. We had an absolute carpet of these dahlias in that flower bed, and it was stunning. So if you are like me and you have the heat and the humidity in the dog days of summer, right? Don't freak out if your dahlias kind of slow down on the production. Just leave them alone. Keep watering them, keep doing what you need to, but when those cooler temperatures come back, then the flowers are going to come back. So you have that Pinkerific, lovely, beautiful pink. Then we have Classy Carmine. Classy Carmine is a really beautiful, deep, rich red. We have Day Glow Yellow, which is big and happy and cheery, very bright, kind of that lemon color. You have Rad Raz, which is going to be a little bit of a bicolor, more of a pink on the center, and as the outer petals are going to be more in that kind of that purple hue to them. And then you have the Vibrant Violet. Gorgeous, beautiful violet dahlia, and these are just beautiful. They make great cut flowers. Yes, their stems may be a little bit shorter than like a traditional dahlia, but they make great cut flowers. Trust me, we cut plenty of them. And with dahlias, the more you cut, the happier the plant is. So you don't have to deadhead per se, but it does encourage new growth, which is going to encourage more flowers. So go out there and snip some of these flowers off, put them in a little bud vase in your bathroom, by your kitchen sink, or on your, your office table, wherever it is that you've got a little room for a little flower bud vase. Put those. You will absolutely love them. One of my other plants that I was really pleasantly surprised with. I was not expecting to like this plant as much as I did, but I'm telling you, I love this. Aromatica purple heliotrope. Now this, oh my gosh, y'all, this is the plant that still in November, it was stunning. Absolutely gorgeous. This is going to be a little bit shorter, more wide, compact, very tight plant. There's zero pinching on this plant. In North Carolina, we battle Japanese beetles, snails, slugs, but basically all the kind of critters that you can think of, we have them, right? The foliage on this plant was spectacular, even in November. Really dark green leaves with that really rich purple flower. And the flower is very wide. So there's lots of little flowers that are in mass that make these big, huge heads. And if you're looking to support your pollinators, especially at the end of the season, then your Aromatica purple is going to be the plant for you. It is much darker than the other heliotropes that Proven Winners has, and it is stunning. I just cannot tell you how gorgeous this plant is, how low maintenance it is, and how much the bees love this plant. So this is definitely going to be one that you're going to want to put in your landscape and in your containers. If you put it in your landscape, I would say, because it is shorter and wider, it's going to go to the front of your landscape. If you're looking for some height, then that's not what this heliotrope is going to do for you. It is going to be low and wide, and it pairs beautifully with the mini-me chartreuse. We just had it planted that way. We had the Aromatica purple, and then we had the mini-me chartreuse behind it. Beautiful. I don't have the best picture of those two together, but you can see where I have that Aromatica, and then behind it is the mini-me chartreuse. Lovely. We will be using this in the garden for sure this year. Calling all my shade gardeners, because I know that a lot of times the sun gardens, the part sun gardens, get all the fun. At least it seems that way, right? And so those in the shade garden, you're like, but I want some flowers. Can I please have flowers in my shade garden? Yes, you can. One of the absolute best plants for your shade garden are the Rockapulco double impatiens. I adore these plants, and every year I have the hardest time deciding on what color I want to put in my shade garden, because these plants are absolutely stunning. They don't stop flowering. They just continue to put on flower after flower after flower. So this year we've got two new improvements. They're not necessarily new colors, they've been around, but the plants have been improved. So first, they're both some of my favorites. I can't say that. It's like saying who's your favorite kid, right? So Apple Blossom. Apple Blossom is going to be a very extremely soft pink. And of course, all of your double impatiens, your Rockapulcos, are that double impatient. They look like little miniature roses. They will do great in the landscape. Historically, that's how I use them, but they also do really, really well in containers. You also have the Rockapulco Rose that has been improved. And so the difference between Apple Blossom and Rose is the color, right? Obviously, that's very clear. Apple Blossom, very pale, very soft, very gentle pink, where your Rose is going to be a little bit more electric pink, right? So that really, really rich pink. The sizes are going to be the same. They make beautiful mounded plants. And so again, if you want to put them in containers, you can use them as a filler in a container, in that shade container. You can do a mono basket, a mono container. gorgeous. Pair them with some caladiums. Pair them with some diamond frost euphorbia. They intermingle together and they would be stunning, right? So we've got rose and apple blossom, and then a new color. You've got Rockapulco red. So if you want some nice, bright, beautiful red flowers in your shade garden, then the Rockapulco red is definitely going to be the one that you're going to want to go to. We are all itching to put some color in our garden at the end of winter going into spring. So when we have those cool days, right? So we have, maybe it gets a little warm, but at night it can get cool. What are you going to put in your garden? Well, nemesia is a great plant for that. Nemesia historically likes it very cool, can handle those cooler temperatures, and does really well. So this year they have Bluebird. So Bluebird is beautiful purple blue flower colors, nice sweet fragrance. That's one of those benefits about nemesia is it has a fragrance to it. Never fails. Early spring, people open up the garden center greenhouse and they're like, oh my gosh, what is that delicious smell? It's the nemesia. So nemesia has that beautiful fragrance, not overpowering, but has a lovely fragrance to it. And it has those beautiful purpley blue flowers with a little bit of yellow in the center. So if you're looking for an early flower to put in the garden when your temperatures are still a little fluctuating, we haven't hit the heat yet, that Bluebird nemesia is going to be good for you. Proven Winners is definitely known for their petunias, right? They are famous for their supertunias. So we have got some for you this year. Now, Bermuda Beach. Bermuda Beach has been around for quite a long time. But this is one of those cases where Proven Winners likes to take a plant, and after a couple of years, maybe it needs a little bit of improvement. Maybe it needs to have more of a tight, compact habit. Maybe they can improve a little bit more in the richer colors to it. So that's the case with our Bermuda Beach. So as they say, it is designed to play better well with others in containers, and it has a more relaxed habit, so that way you get the plants that begin to intertwine with one another. So it's not going to be as aggressive, a little looser, so that they can mingle with one another. Of course, Bermuda Beach has those beautiful pink flowers with that yellow throat. Absolutely gorgeous. Now, the three new ones that are brand new on the market. The first one I love. This is the Supertunia Mini Vista Plum Veined. Y'all, I was so impressed with this plant, and we have big plans for this in the garden this year. Mini Vista Plum Veined is going to be that really rich purple, right? And it had beautiful growth on it. I like my Supertunias to be more tight and compact when they grow, because we have such a long growing season. I don't like it when petunias start to get too long, too leggy, too spread out. The Mini Vista Plum Veined, oh my gosh, she was everything I ever wanted. Nice, tight, absolutely covered in flowers, from tip to bottom and everything in between. Gorgeous. Had this in the deck boxes, intermingled with all those other beautiful plants that we had growing in there. Huge, huge performer. Of course, your Mini Vistas are going to be a little bit less vigorous than your Vistas. They will do great in containers. They will do great in the landscape. We're going to use it mostly in the landscape this year for us. But it's a little bit tighter, not as vigorous. So if you've got a more of a tight, compact space, maybe it's along a sidewalk, or maybe it's along a wall, but you don't want the wall to be completely covered, then the Mini Vista Plum Veined is definitely going to be a good option for you. You're going to love this plant. You're going to love the color. It is gorgeous. And then we have two tiaras. So the tiara is new to Proven Winners. So you have a Supertunia Tiara Pink, and you have Supertunia Tiara Blue. And so the pink obviously is going to be a beautiful, nice, rich pink. But the kind of the hallmark of the tiaras is that they have a white throat, and then it kind of ombres out into the color. Pink is obviously pink. And then the blue is, depends on how you want to look at it in the horticultural world. I would say it's a little bit more purple than actually a true blue, but it is that nice, rich purple blue in the horticultural world. Of course, now your Supertunia tiaras are going to have that medium vigor to it. So they're going to be more vigorous than the Mini Vista Plum Veined, but not as vigorous as, say, like Supertunia Vista Bubblegum, right? these are going to have an absolutely beautiful glow to them because they have that white center in the throat, and you are going to absolutely love these too. Again, we have great plans for these in the gardens, the signature garden especially. So we're going to be planting these in mass because when you plant them in mass, they make quite the statement. But you can put your Supertunias directly in the ground. They love the ground. Whereas your Superbells don't like to have wet feet, the Supertunias are like, give it to me, sister. Give me all the water, give me all the food, let my roots grow, and I am happy, happy, happy. So you can put it in the landscape. You can put them in containers, hanging baskets. Whatever kind of container you have, they will do well. So the versatility for me on a Supertunia is better than the versatility of a Superbell. But those colors cannot be beat with the tiaras that are going to be coming out this year. Also, the Mojave portulacas. The Mojaves are not new, and so this is another case where we've got 3 new introductions. 2 of them are going to be improved, and then 1 we have a brand new color. Portulaca, of course, loves the heat and the humidity. Nice, low growing. So you can use this as a ground cover. You can do like me, and I paired the Mojave fuchsia with a mangave in a hanging basket. Glorious. And the fun thing is that the blooms will open and close with the sun. So the improved one is we have Mojave fuchsia. And so they just have that improvement in the color, the heat tolerance, and then your flower performance. You want to talk about plants that are absolutely covered in flowers. The Mojaves are it. And they have a nice vigor to them. So if you put them in a container or a hanging basket, put them on the edge. They're going to act as a spiller. Not going to be crazy like a Supertunia, but they are going to spill over. And then we have tangerine. Tangerine is going to be, of course, that same thing as that improved as the fuchsia with the color, the heat tolerance, and the flower performance. So that's just a nice, gorgeous orange. And then the new color for this year is the Mojave mango. Now, mango is so cute and so fun. It is definitely going to be a bold color. So really rich orange with a deeper color orange for your throat. I have great plans for Mojave mango. I'm going to put it as the border behind the cottage garden. So it's going to have like the rockin' deep purple salvias behind it. We're going to have a hot pink buddleias, butterfly bushes back there. So it is going to be an electric, huge pollinator attractor. Your Mojave portulacas are some of the best pollinator attractors. Your honeybees love these plants. So if you're, again, looking to support your pollinators, grab some of those portulacas. And the portulacas are going to be go throughout the entire season. I had to hit a hard freeze before my container, my hanging basket, that Mojave got killed back. So heat, humidity, full sun, neglect, this is the plant for you. Salvias. Proven Winners has some great salvias, and one of those series is the Unplugged series. So we have 2 new colors to the Unplugged series. You have got Unplugged Red, which is a really nice, bold, really rich red. And then you have Unplugged White. Really nice, soft white to it. You're going to love these 2. Gorgeous, big blooms, great flower power, and that red really does stand out because it has that gorgeous electric color. And then the Unplugged White, man, we had that again in that display bed at the garden center, and it just kept on performing. Your Unpluggeds are going to be more petite. They're not going to be as vigorous as, say, your Rockin' series. So definitely would do great in the landscape if you need something a little shorter, or if you're looking to put something in containers. These make great thrillers. They're not going to overtake. They're not going to be bullies in the containers, and your other plants that go around them are going to be very happy, and they're going to play very well together. Again, of course, your salvias, huge pollinator attractors, right? Your hummingbirds are going to love that Unplugged Red with that electric red color, and your bees and whether it's your bumblebees and your honeybees are going to love all of them with that sweet flower production for them. And then last but not least, we have some new scaevolas. Scaevolas, again, are those plants that absolutely love the heat. They perform so well in the heat. So if you go to your garden center, first thing in the spring, maybe they're not so prolific, maybe they're not so big. Well, give it a minute, give it some heat, and they will absolutely explode. Now, the Stardiva new scaevolas, there are 3 colors in this series, and the Stardivas are really cool, hence its name, Stardiva. So typically your scaevolas are going to be a fan shaped, so they're flat and spread out, right? Stardivas have a star shaped to them, so they really are star divas in the garden. So we have both the Stardiva blue, pink, and white. The blue is going to be, again, a little bit more on the purple side, so don't be saying, Jenny, that's not blue, it's more purple. I know, just take it up with all the horticulturists out there in the world. Beautiful, kind of that nice light purple with that little bit of that yellow in the throat. Then you've got the pink. The pink is going to be a nice soft, like what I call a baby doll pink. It's not hot and electric. Nice soft pastel color to it. And then, of course, white is white. In the landscape, these are going to be great in those really dry areas. They're going to be shorter and wider. So think of it like more like a ground cover. If you need to cover some areas right there close to the sidewalk or right there on the front edge of your flower bed, plant these in mass. And remember, mass could be 3, it could be 13, it could be 30. It all depends on your size of your garden. But when you plant these in mass, it's really going to attract some attention. So you can do those in the landscape. And then, of course, they make gorgeous hanging baskets because your scaevolas typically like to stay a little bit on the drier side, which the hanging baskets are great for. So if you have lots of heat, whether it's dry heat or humidity like we do here in North Carolina, they're going to work really, really well. So I hope this has brought a little bit of color and a little bit of sunshine to your winter day. I know that I get very excited talking about these new plants. Cannot wait to see some of these arrive this week, and then next week we're going to have them all arriving. It is going to be so exciting. Of course, we'll take you along for the ride when they get here because I think that's very cool for you to see how a little tiny baby plant turns into a gorgeous hanging basket, or how it turns into a beautiful grande size container that when you unbox it from Creekside Nursery, you get to see all that beautiful color and you know exactly how that plant came to be and how it was grown and all the love and attention that was given to it. So again, hope you found this fun, informative, inspirational. Hope you've gotten some ideas for your garden this year. And so of course here at Creekside Nursery, whether you're coming to see us here at the nursery or whether you're ordering online, we will have these available at both places. If you're coming to the nursery, because people ask this all the time, right now we do not have it where you can order and then pick up at the nursery. The best time to come to the nursery for your best selection, I would say, would be in that April into May, right? So our last frost date here is April 15th. Of course, we get folks that travel from all over the place. And so if you're in those warmer zones, come on, we got the plants. We're going to have this greenhouse filled up this week, so you can come see us. We'll have those plants available for you. But you get that best selection in that April to May. If you're showing up in July, you might have some things that are going to be out of stock. But come early. The early bird gets the worm, and we will have plenty for you. We're still ordering more plants, y'all. Okay, we'll see y'all in the next video. Bye, guys.